Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
And down at the
I'm
bottom,
Randy Fischer and Steve Hayes.
and we are this week's edition of the FAIRtax Guys. Let's see, where's Fat Albert? There he is.
Yeah.
Gotta have that. Where's your scrolling banner, Scarborough?
Which way I'm supposed to look? It's like the Brady Bunch opening.
Oh, there you go. All right, well, as you can
They're
tell,
worse comparisons, Bob.
we have a rather special edition of FAIRtax Power Radio in store today. We have who I think, and actually I know, is the busiest man in the entire FAIRtax movement. Randy, thank you for being with us. I know how busy you are. And Steve, the president of the National Americans for Fair Taxation Organization. Always a pleasure to have both of you guys with us. And we have a special occasion. And it is to honor, and I tell you what, I'm going to kind of impose a little bit or infringe a little bit on Jim Bennett's territory. Jim, among the many things he does, he writes the weekly Grassroots Corner column, in which he shines a spotlight on various assorted FAIRtax volunteers across the country and what they're doing. So I've kind of been content to let him, shine the light of truth or shine the light of the spotlight on people and on what they're doing. But I wanted to do a tribute and a memorial show to a guy that was just really, really special here in Florida. So I'm going to jump on a little bit. And this was a guy named Mark Gupton. And you guys may or not know him. Let's see if I can get my screen share here to work for a second and see if I can pop up a picture of him. There he is. It's kind of a small picture.
Right.
That was Mark Gupton. Mark Gupton was the president of the Florida FAIRtax group when I first joined up with the movement. And I say he was just quite a character. I found out a few days ago, or a week or so ago, that he had died. And then I found out later that actually he died back in the spring. So we're not exactly on time with this, but it's something I really wanted to do because Mark was such a special person. Even though I didn't know him all that well, I only crossed paths with him a couple of times. Scarborough, you didn't know him at all, I don't believe. But Randy and Steve were both worked with him quite a bit. So, Randy, let me just open the floor up to you first. Just your general thoughts on Mark Gupton.
Well, Mark was somebody with tremendous energy. And this is coming from a guy that was working 18, 19-hour days back in the early 2007, 8, 9, 10 range. Mark, at that time, had the energy to drive literally almost statewide in Florida, trying to get district directors, trying to get groups going and keep going around the state. And so the very first thing that I was impressed with Mark was his energy. The second thing I was impressed with Mark, unlike myself, who at that time was somebody that could get in a fight in an empty room, Mark would literally was one of the calmest, coolest, most composed debaters and persons who would take a position, stand solid in that position, and rebut factually without throwing emotions and epithets into it, any criticism that would be thrown at the FAIRtax and the FAIRtax movement. I literally first got involved in around 2006, 2007, after a few years break from FAIRtax. In the early 2000s, I had put a couple small groups together in Ocala. We would have like 6, 8 people. We had done 2 of those post office events where you stand outside the post office waving flags and handing out flyers on April 15th. And Mark had actually coordinated a group of those where we had, I think, as many as about 15 or 18 post offices covered with people handing out flyers. And then we targeted another flyer at I think it was Vern Buchanan, when he got elevated to speak the Ways and Means Committee, in whatever district that was in Florida at the time. And Mark was just an engine. He was one of these people that knew where we needed to go. He didn't hesitate to get in the car, literally and figuratively, and drive that car up and down the state of Florida. And he built the Florida FAIRtax Education Association up until the time that he passed it on to Ron Malero in 2017.
Okay, Steve, your turn.
Well, I echo what Randy was saying, that Mark was a fellow who had mostly a smile. I mean, that's what I remember about Mark, is he was smiling, even when he was not maybe as happy with something that somebody was saying. Like Randy was saying, he didn't glower at him, or he didn't do anything. It was like, okay, it's fine. You can have that point of view, but let me explain why I don't agree with you. I actually was thinking about, when we were talking about this show, that there are some people you meet in life who have that quality. I mean, Charlie Kirk had that ability to be smiling and talk to you, engage you, not cut corners, not say what he wanted, but to say it in a way that wasn't offensive. He didn't pick at it. And I always felt like Mark was that way. Now, I got the opportunity not to roam the halls of Tallahassee with him, but to basically go to a hearing and testify about the benefits of the FAIRtax resolution. And I watched Mark, let's just say, work the crowd, meaning the members on the committee. And it was very nice. There were people there that were opposed, that were just as friendly as they could be, because they realized this guy was somebody that had no guile. He had an idea that he really believed in, and he felt it was good, and they respected that. And I thought that was a really interesting observation, because I've been in Congress in some of those hearings, and I don't have that ability, I guess, because some of the people that disagreed with me really disagreed with me and felt like, you shouldn't be there. Randy saw the testimony I recently gave and saw how some of those people treated me. Mark didn't get any of that. They didn't agree with him necessarily, but it was respectful disagreement, which I thought was really a tremendous ability. And the fact that he was tireless, true. I don't think there's anybody that ever could do everything that Mark did without maybe being a full-time paid person. But Mark did it. He took time out. He told me one time, we were writing somewhere, it might have been to the testimony, I don't remember now, that he didn't play golf, but the FAIRtax took the place of golf for him. It let him meet people, it let him talk, it let him socialize, and it really was something also that his wife tolerated. And that was very important.
Yeah.
But he was a funny guy in his own way. I mean, you look at him and the smile, but, he told a story that I thought was really interesting. He said that when he first got a job, Mark was a salesman. That probably explains some of what I'm saying. But he got a job with Carnation. And he said that for a company, he had to be the Santa Claus. And Mark was a slender guy, so he had to have all the padding and everything on the clothes and the Santa Claus suit. And he got up there, and he was there, and the Santa Claus was landing. That was Mark with a helicopter on the roof. And he found at the last minute that he had to sing, "Here Comes Santa Claus."
Oh, mercy.
His voice was so bad that his wife was literally falling over laughing along with everybody else. But he just thought it was so much fun. And he said that he offered to do it again, but they never did ask him to again. So, but that was Mark, just he loved life but he mainly wanted to contribute. That was what I got. He really wanted to make a difference, not only for those of us here, but for his kids and grandkids, because he really believed that if you don't, it's like that statement, if not me, who? Mm-hmm. Well, you guys the three of you have that same point of view. You're doing it because if you don't do it, who else is going to do it? And that was Mark. So great guy, much admired. I was really shocked when he called me and told me that he was going to have to resign. And he sort of hinted at some reasons why that didn't have anything to do with the FAIRtax or lack of it, because he said, I want to be involved. I still want to do this, but I have other things and I think it was some health issues in his family that he had to step back from. But great guy, built a great organization, and it's moving on because of the foundation that he laid, and just did a remarkable job.
And let me add one thing about Steve's testifying in the halls of the Capitol there on the Senate Memorial. Mark was smart enough to know not to let me roam the halls and not the room, because as an attorney who defended businesses and liability claims against individuals, I could indeed get in a fight in an empty room, and my personality was high-strung, very aggressive, and I was pretty much the opposite of what Mark would be in terms of calm whenever anybody would make an attack. So that just showed one more feature of Mark's brilliance, in my opinion. But he literally redirected my activities, though, after I retired. I retired in 2012. I had some significant heart issues. Got out before my law firm imploded, which was a good thing. And once he knew that, everything was settled for me, I had to make a choice. And I didn't have to, but I was making a mental choice, at least, between, do I split my time between Convention Estates, which was getting going pretty well at that time, and the FAIRtax. And Mark called me and said, let's meet. And he said, oh, by the way, we want a strong presence in the villages. Will you meet me down in the villages? And we went down, and there was a Tea Party person there that had a big group in the villages at that time. And the three of us had lunch, and as a result of Mark's gentle persuasion, I made a decision to turn all of my energy, 100% of it, directly to FAIRtax. And within months, I was in Houston for a meeting with the grassroots leaders that were taking over, and the rest is history. I've spent many hours dealing with social media, promoting FAIRtax, and have been able to get in a fight in an empty room on social media, at least. So. But I did want to add that Mark literally is the individual who made me turn the correct direction now, looking back on it, to spend 100% of my time pushing for HR 25.
All right.
You want to go into more detail about the memorial?
Yeah, I was. That's your cue, Scarborough.
Looked over, I've done some research here about Mr. Gupton, and of course, being from North Carolina, he's definitely got his head on straight, focusing on how to accomplish things. Being that he was born in Fayetteville, we won't hold that against him, but he went to Campbell College, which was at that time a 2-year college, and then he ended up transferring over to East Carolina University, go Pirates. And his whole life was spent in service through his career, and then, of course, continuing after retirement to Florida, which seems like what a lot of people do. Lived in Hollywood, coached Little League Baseball, so he had an understanding about life. And I think that's the bottom line with the FAIRtax and how he was able to accomplish what he did. It was a passion and brought about a lot of common sense, hard work to make things happen there in Florida. And
Indeed.
whether it was writing letters to the editor of newspapers or encouraging people like you, Randy, and those who he was around. The memorial piece is something that's a bit of a curiosity for me. What will it accomplish and help people remember Mark for all time?
Well, from my recollection, the idea was have multiple states, not just Florida, but have states throughout the country express through their legislation in whatever form the state could use at that point to instruct more or less or tell their congressional representatives that the end of the federal income tax, the end of the IRS, the repeal of the 16th Amendment is the path, and that HR 25 is the vehicle. And so the idea was, let's use the strongest state at that time and get a memorial to the Florida legislature. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, if I remember right, Marco Rubio was Speaker of the House at one point, 2012, 2013.
I believe so.
I don't know about 2014, but as you can, really see when he not long after he went on as United States Senator from Florida, and he went and now he's got a new job, roaming the world. And who knows what job he may look for in 2028. But Rubio was one of these people that had a lot of influence at that time. And there is a video where Rubio said that he supports the fair tax until he got in Congress or in the Senate, apparently. But, he was afraid the political will wasn't there. Well, the idea behind the memorial was to show the legislators that the political will could be there. And now we've got multiple states that are not only Tennessee passed a memorial, but other states are moving rapidly to try and end their state income taxes. And that's certainly sent a message.
Indeed. Well, just to clarify real quickly, a memorial, if you will, is a declaration or a statement by the legislature, advocating for a particular position. So the Florida legislature, in passing this memorial, was sending a message to Congress saying, hey, guys, we would like you, it's the official position of the state of Florida, that we would like you guys to pass the fair tax. Steve, what kind of impact can something like that have, especially if multiple states do it?
If multiple states do it, it begins to have a lot of impact because they start to see in Congress that maybe this will be an issue for them when they run for re-election. Frankly, that's the only way you can have an impact. Well, there's two ways. One is to write a big check, multiple checks, and you'll have an impact. The other way is to threaten their job. And those are the only two things that I believe move the needle when you're working in Congress. And the memorial was a start, and I think it was a little bit of a surprise because when I talked to Vern Buchanan afterwards he was a little surprised that the legislature had done that, and thought it was really interesting. Really interesting that they were, in fact, I forget how he said it, but getting involved in national politics. But he thought it was interesting. He said it's a good sign.
All right, excellent. Well, the memorial is probably the number one primary accomplishment, legacy that Mark Gupton left us. How long did it take to get that thing through? I mean, it's not something you just walk in on Monday afternoon and you've got it on Thursday.
Randy, do you remember? I think it was over a year he worked on it.
Yeah, it was between less than 2 years, but well over a year. It was probably at least a year and a half.
Yeah.
Because he was spending time contacting each member of the Florida House, each member of the Florida Senate.
Yep.
He didn't leave anybody out. He buttonholed everybody, and probably both in person, email, and telephone. So it was a good year and a half, to the best of my recollection.
Yeah, of him going up and seeing them, and he visited some of them because he told me about it in their home districts, their homes basically, because he would just go wherever they would see him.
Met with the Ocala senator and three representatives.
Yep.
And those were one of the times when he made sure to let me know again, stay on the farm. You don't
be seen but not heard. Yeah.
So,
no, the true salesman doesn't want anybody else stepping on his lines, because the old principle is he says something and pauses, and the old thing for the salesman was the next person that speaks loses.
Mm-hmm.
So he wanted it to be whoever he was talking to that would speak, that would go. I mean, I found him fascinating because he had a lot of logic, but he did it not in a manipulative way, but in a kind way. He was bringing them to understanding, not bludgeoning them with a hammer to do what he wanted. If the difference makes sense, it just was a different approach.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't have that finesse, or perhaps the better way is saying it, they don't have that ability, because it really is an ability.
Well, it seems to me that getting something like that through a political entity like the Florida legislature in a year and a half is actually, a pretty good speed, considering the FAIRtax has been sitting in Congress for over 25 years and it hadn't even gotten a hearing committee yet. So Mark had to be a pretty persuasive guy to get that through that quickly.
He was very persuasive, but even more important is he didn't use money.
Yeah,
we don't have any
logic, and
we're all volunteers
persona to go there. It's not like he had the such and such PAC throwing a lot of money to the ones that supported it. This was all a thing that they did because it was the right thing to do. That was the way he approached it, not because they were going to be better, contributions or anything else. Although he did say that a lot of people are going to really like the idea because there are a lot of FAIRtax supporters. I think that's going to help you if you say you were, on the resolution. I heard him say that to a particular member, but he didn't. It was more like, this is the right thing to do, guys.
Yeah,
I wish I knew more. I wish I had crossed paths with him more often. I really didn't. But I could tell in the little bit of time that I did meet him that there was just a aura, persona about him that you were just kind of drawn to listen to what he said.
Yes.
And I'm glad he would use that ability and that talent to advance the FAIRtax. Okay, we got about 3.5 minutes left, guys, so we need to kind of wrap this up shortly. Randy, you started to say something a second ago.
Well, I was going to say the one unique thing about the memorial was that it was delivered to each representative, congressional representative in Florida, both senators, delivered to the President of the United States and filed with the archivist for the United States. So it's actually on record both in Congress and in the National Archives. So, and I thought that was unique.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. Truly a remarkable man. I think Bob Scarborough and Bob Paxton, you both would have much enjoyed and valued an opportunity to be around him and with him, just like we all did. But he left an organization that has survived and frankly is still getting things done. And that's really a tribute to anybody. If you can, a good leader is not somebody that just leads, but it's somebody that builds an organization so that when he or she step aside, it can continue on. It wasn't like an ego thing with Mark. He wanted it to work. And to me, that's maybe the biggest tribute to him, is he really wanted it to work, and he really believed in it, not because of some goofy economic policy or whatever, but because he truthfully believed that it was the best thing for America, for his family, and for all of our families. And I don't know how you can say it, that anybody could have a much higher purpose.
He recognized the leadership capacity in Bob Malero, or Ron Malero also. And
yeah, Ron was a little bit hesitant to take over. He wasn't sure he could do it. And Mark convinced him to do it, and Ron was pretty good at it as well.
He was very good. Yeah, very good.
He was also a FAIRtax guy, so
I roped him into doing this program when it first started way back almost 10 years ago as just an audio only podcast on an internet station called Leading Edge Radio Network. And so that's it. But say we're just about out of time here. But Steve, I do want to make note that if I've got all my recording schedule properly corrected, this episode that we are actually recording on the last day of October is going to stream on the last Tuesday in November, which makes it number 499, which means next week we'll be talking to you and Jade Wally on our 500th FAIRtax Power Radio episode. That blows my mind. It really does.
That's incredible accomplishment, guys. Really is.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what,
I was just on the other end of Bob Paxton's rope when, he roped Ron Malero roped in. So hopefully there's a bunch more rope that's out there. All the folks that are involved, it's energizing. I will say that from the conversation today, I learned that Mark Gupton was a very welcoming individual, a quiet man who led and made a big difference. And here we are today because of his efforts today, too.
Yep.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We are indeed out of time here on this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. We will be back next week with episode number 500, another special edition with Steve and Jade Wiley this time. Scarborough, you got the day off next week. You had some commitments that you weren't able to join the recording session. When we got 4 guys over 2 time zones, it's kind of hard to make the logistics work on that sometimes. But we will look forward to seeing you again next week here on FAIRtax Power Radio. Steve, Randy, again, thank you so much for joining us. That is going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. We will meet you again, same time, same channel next week. Till we meet again, I'm Bob Paxton.
Bob Scarborough.
Steve Hayes.
And Randy, your audio didn't go through, but that's Randy Fischer. We are the FAIRtax Guys for there we go. We are the FAIRtax Guys for this week, reminding you the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax. And once you understand it,
you'll
demand it.
So what would you do for her?
We've got several programs that will help her. We just need to find out how much she makes. But the good news is, the less she does, the more we can help.
Yeah.
If I may, with the FAIRtax, we wouldn't even tax her income. So the more she makes, the more she has.
But still, a consumption tax could eat up a lot of her income.
Which is why at the beginning of every month, we're actually going to give back all that she pays in taxes on basic necessities.
You're going to give her back her taxes?
Every month, on everything taxed on basic necessities. But we're also going to give it back to you and to every American citizen.
Why?
Well, we believe taxes should be fair.